Hey everybody, Sean Earley here. Greetings from a gray, unspectacular, typical German January day. So today I want to talk about an article I read recently talking about the agency Accenture. Their marketing wing, which is called Accenture Song, did a big article talking about how it has now moved what they say is upstream of traditional advertising. And what they mean by upstream is basically instead of focusing on campaigns and content as their main focus, they're taking more of an organizational, higher level approach where they work with the companies and clients and organizations, more of an enterprise level where they sort of define, the strategic layer, the business layer, the marketing layer, how to integrate AI and systems into the process before it actually gets down to the content, which, I agree is a smart approach. Unfortunately, my feeling on this is that this is like, I just want to say, hey, Accenture, welcome to 2010, and I get it. I've worked at agencies before. I worked on the agency side, I worked on the client side, and this is something that needs to happen. And this is, at least in my experience, always has been the struggle of in the sort of innovation business. You plop down an agency side and, they're full of big ideas and they want to impress clients with the big ideas. But, there's a lot of people in the company that literally just don't have a higher overview of what that requires on the marketing level. And it's the same with the client side. You plop down in and you pitch some big ideas, but the client really just doesn't even get it. And I feel, at least in my opinion, this is mostly based on a customer experience issue. So customer experience, defining your customer experience, defining your customer journey, this is something that is fundamental before you do any kind of marketing. And unfortunately, it also, when you bring it up, especially on a company level, you kind of just get this blank stare, or you get people roll their eyes, or this level of fear like, oh, what is that going to require? But it's something that unless you have a solid customer experience, unless you've mapped out your customer journey for your company, for your product, and for your agency as a service provider, even, you're going to fail as a business. It doesn't matter what you do. And this is a core issue I see across the entire spectrum of every company I've worked for, every agency I've worked for, is a fundamental lack of customer experience. Let me give you an analogy, and I've talked about this before in some of my other podcasts. Here in Germany, I hate to say this, I have a lot of German listeners who are listening to this, but Germany is great at making things like cars and tools and defining things, hyper-focusing on things. But when it comes to actual sales, you suck. You suck at selling things. Customer experience really doesn't exist in Germany per se. It's not even part of the DNA. And I've talked about this story before, but just to get some context, a few years ago, I went to buy a new car. I had cash. I was going to buy it directly. I wasn't going to finance, just going to pay it for cash, And, if you go to America to a car dealer, the second you step a toe on the sidewalk near a car agency, you see the salespeople prairie dogging above their desks or above the cars. You got 5 people like running at you trying to get your driver's license, take you out for a test drive, get your ass in the seat. That's the thing for car companies. Asses in seats, book a test drive. And it's been the same in Germany, that's been kind of their focus, is book a test drive, at least, from a strategic wording wise. But buying a car in Germany is completely different. Like I said, I had cash. I wasn't have a lot of cash, but enough to buy a average family wagon. That's what I was looking for. Didn't really have a particular brand in mind. I was just going to go and look at them all. So I went down to Auto Row here in Germany. Anyway, I went down to where all the dealerships were, and I went into every single one. And I went into probably one of the more leading German car brands, who makes a lot of family wagons, a big place, probably one of the bigger ones I've ever seen, 3 to 4 floors of vehicles. I'm not going to name names. Walked around for maybe an hour looking at cars, used cars, new cars, everything they had, figured out a couple ones I wanted to test drive. And then I proceeded for another half an hour to walk around looking for anybody with a pulse to even acknowledge my existence and say hello, much less, help me, answer me some questions, go with me to take a test drive. I finally found this one dude who's kind of hiding in the corner. And I asked him, I said, hey, can I talk to a salesperson? And his response was, you're going to have to come back later. Everybody's out to lunch. And I was thinking, there was no, and that was the end of it, right? That was the end of it. There was no like, hey, can I get your phone number, email, contact information? They can get right to you. Or, hey, come back a little bit later. Here's a business card. You know what I mean? Just some sort of funnel entry aspect, I was expecting from any kind of car dealership, but there was none. And so I didn't buy that particular brand of vehicle. I walked out. And then I went to every single dealership on this road, probably 6, and I got the exact same thing. I could not get a single person to even acknowledge me walking in the door. And I understand they roll differently in Germany when it comes to sales, but that was my experience everywhere. I finally ended up at one dealership, an American dealership. Again, I'm not going to name names. And the salesperson there was nice enough to at least say, hey, I'm super busy. I have 2 people ahead of me, but if you wait around just 10 minutes, I'll get back to you. And all I wanted was a little bit of acknowledgement, and that's literally the only acknowledgement I got in the entire city in every single car dealership. So I ended up buying a car from this guy. Just because he acknowledged me. And, when we're talking about customer experience, especially in a country that is really struggling right now economically, whose major number one export product is automotive, you would think that in the middle of an economic, I'd say, not yet catastrophe, but something serious is coming to Germany right now economically, where they're struggling to sell vehicles, where their competition is being taken over by China. You would think that there would be a little bit more concerted effort to at least try to sell their shit a little better. But that's not the case. And that boils down to customer experience. And I'm sure these car companies all have had some kind of, high-level strategies for this, but it does not filter down to the dealership, to the actual customer walking in off the street. And I've not seen it. And I've not seen it just in the car industry. I've seen this pretty much every single sales situation that I've been involved with, every single store, every single restaurant, every single business in Germany is typically about the same experience. You literally have to chase people down if you want to get served. And again, I realize that's a cultural thing, but we're not in the same place as we are 20 years ago. We are economically in a totally different phase where the entire working middle class, the entire white-collar tech economy is disappearing. And I've talked about this in some of my other podcasts. And what is happening right now is a complete paradigm shift, I believe, in how we work. And it's requiring this middle class, sort of safe tech economy type worker to transition to more fractional experiences, to more portfolio experiences. Basically, everybody is going to become these sort of freelancers for a lot of different tasks. And I truly believe this is kind of the new normal for how we work, especially with AI and outsourcing and economic decline and population decline, which is also a big topic in Germany. There just aren't the same types of jobs as we have come to know for the last probably 50 years. I think that, sort of long story short, but if we are to survive in this situation, especially in a fractional economy, one on the corporate side of things, this is something that, customer experience has been around for a long time. If it goes back to traditional direct marketing, has been around for 100 years or more, you know what I mean? If you understand marketing from a fundamental level, customer experience basically just defines who the client is, who the customer is, what products they're looking for, what problems they have to be solved, what mechanisms are involved in reaching the customer with the right product, the right time, the right platform, delivering the best possible quality product with the right types of sales, the right types of marketing, the types of customer service that's involved once they buy the product, and also the follow-up aspect to get people to buy more products from you. It's an entire customer journey life cycle. And if you don't have this in place, you shouldn't be selling shit, in my opinion. It's something I work with myself. I've pivoted a lot in the last year and I'm redefining that and building that, but it's a thing that I'd sit down every time I come up with a new idea, a new business plan or whatever. I define the customer journey, at least on paper, how it's supposed to work. And I can't imagine having a multi-billion-dollar company that makes 100,000 euro products and not having a customer journey. I can't imagine having a marketing agency that doesn't understand what a customer journey is. It doesn't understand the basic fundamentals of direct marketing and how that works. And so we're at a time now where if we're facing such a fractional workforce, that means that no longer will companies have lots and lots of full-time employees. They'll have lots and lots of fractional employees, lots and lots of freelancers, lots and lots of people coming and going. And if you thought the customer experience was bad before, imagine it now if you have people that aren't even working for you full-time to help you figure that out. The same with agencies. Agencies are the same way. They're becoming much more fractional, downsizing, replacing with AI. And how you expect AI to work if you don't even have a customer experience mapped out to make your AI agent work properly? And so I guess this really boils down to the fact is, do you have a customer experience for your company? Do you have a customer experience for your agency? Do you have a customer experience for your solopreneurship, your personal brand, whatever it is, but do you have that mapped out? Do you know what your products are? Do you know who your clients are? Do you know how to reach them? Do you know every single touch point in the sales process so that you can optimize that, so you don't have somebody walking in the door and nobody answers the phone and nobody gives them a business card and nobody acknowledges the person trying to buy something? And it sounds a little bit extreme, and I guess I'm taking it a little personally because I got dissed in buying a car, but this has been consistent, at least in this country, and I've experienced it in other countries. Not to brag, and Germans, the last thing they want is another outspoken American coming and telling them what they should be doing, of course. But, again, I've said this comes from love, this comes from respect, this comes from knowing I've worked with a lot of really talented, good people in this country and a lot of amazing businesses. But you got to change the culture here. You've got to change the culture to understand how to sell shit. And I know it's culturally not been the way things roll here, but we're in different times. We're different, desperate times. And I think things are only going to get worse, as I've talked about, especially in Germany. And if you can just fix a basic fundamental thing with a little bit of a little bit of psyop, a little bit of propaganda to get people to convince that they know how they need to learn how to sell shit. They need to learn customer service to help sell these cars that are sitting around on the lot. It's going to move the needle. And, I don't have every answer for everything, but start with the basic fundamentals, And for agencies, it blows me away that it's taken so long for them to be able to come out and actually say, this is what we're doing. We're focusing on the customer experience, than actually something they should have been doing a long time ago. I champion Accenture for pushing that out, but again, this is old school stuff that should have happened a long time ago. But again, I sympathize with that struggle in trying to explain that to clients, because they just don't get it. They haven't really spent enough time focusing on what the customer experience is. So long story short, I would say, think about what that customer journey is, what the customer experience is for your company, for your business, for your sole proprietorship, for your agency, whatever it is, and define that. Sit down and have a meeting before you sell any more shit. Figure out how you're actually selling stuff. Do people in your company actually know how to sell things? Do they know what customer service is? Have they been through any training? Because in America, and I hate to brag, but I've had hundreds of jobs in America, and pretty much anything that involves sales, there's an extensive training process that you get. Some companies, I've been to 2-week retreats where they do nothing but sit there and teach you how to sell stuff and customer service processes before you step foot in the sales floor, and that's just how it rolls over there. And that culture is not here in Germany. There's no culture where people, learn that before they even graduate from college. It's just it rolls different here. And I understand that, but that has to change. And I think it's a simple change, but it has to come from within. It has to be a cultural thing. And again, it's not just Germany. I think it's global, but really figure out what your customer experience is, especially in these days where everything is so fragmented that it's only going to get worse. And if you really want to excel in this time of uncertainty, then that's at least the basic fundamentals that you can get down and you can secure, so that at least you have full control and a full overview perspective of how you sell your products to your customers. So just something to think about. It's kind of a signal, it's kind of a rant, kind of an opinion. But I'm seeing a lot of signs here. And again, I've been in Germany long enough to just feel this. And it's just like, just learn how to sell shit. So again, this is Sean Earley. If you have further interest in talking about these things or learning more, I have a newsletter called Signals. You can go to my website. I'll put the link in the bio. You sign up and I send out these rants and signals and all these opinions that I fly out once a week. You can get them weekly in your inbox. You can also appreciate if you subscribe and follow to my channel because it really helps get the word out. And it helps grow my customer experience. So with that said, I'm Sean Earley and I'll talk to you later. Bye.